Right now, at this very moment, you're making choices. Where to put your hands, what to say next, whether or not to tilt your head to the left so you can hear me better. But imagine another you doing this right now, making slightly different choices. A you that puts its hands differently, says something else, tilts their head the other way. And what if there are many more versions of you out there? Infinite, even living slightly different lives, making slightly different choices. What if all these versions of you are real? This is the Multiverse! Welcome to C-Show! In today's video, we are going to talk about the multiverse. We'll explain what it is, the different kinds that exist, why scientists think it might be true, and why they also say it probably isn't true. And we'll do it all in under 12 minutes! Ready? Let's go. First things first. What is the multiverse? At its most basic, the multiverse is the idea that our universe may be just one bubble in a much vaster foam, a cosmic sea of many worlds. It's like those old science fiction stories where the main character steps through a portal in his basement and finds himself on an alternate Earth where he made different choices. Except instead of being confined to a single basement, the multiverse suggests that there are infinite versions of us out there. Our universe may just be one of those many worlds. The multiverse comes in 4 different types, and each type suggests that there are many worlds out there in slightly different ways. Type I is just what it sounds like. There's an infinite amount of space, and because of that, it repeats over and over again. So in one part of the universe, there's a solar system that has a planet with life and intelligent beings that are watching this video. And then, in another part of the universe, because it's repeating, there's the same exact solar system with the same planet with the same life and intelligent beings watching the exact same video. They're just slightly farther away. Type I multiverses have identical regions repeating throughout space forever. But that's not the only kind of multiverse that scientists hypothesize. In a Type 2 multiverse, our universe is just one of many bubbles that exists after the initial rapid expansion of the universe known as cosmic inflation. It's like when you blow air into a giant bubble wand. The air inside the bubbles expands rapidly, but only up to a certain point. After that, the individual bubbles expand at their own rate, and each one can have different properties than the others. Some may have more energy, some may have less. And some may have properties that allow for life, while others don't. Scientists believe that the multiverse came into existence during cosmic inflation. Each bubble represents a different field of quantum fluctuations, and any given bubble can have a different physical constant, such as the strength of gravity or the masses of fundamental particles, all of which could affect whether or not life can evolve within them. Type 3 is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. And that's a thing. When we talk about quantum mechanics, we often talk about how things can be in 2 states at once, like a cat that is both dead and alive. This is called a superposition. But at the end of the day, we only ever observe one outcome. So what happened to the other? One interpretation of quantum mechanics, the many worlds interpretation, is that when a particle is in a superposition, it exists in multiple states simultaneously, meaning there are multiple universes existing at the same time. In this Type 3 multiverse, all possible outcomes of a quantum event actually happen in different universes. So, in some universes, Schrodinger's cat is dead. In others, the cat is alive. In still others, the cat is both dead and alive until observed. And those are just the ones we know about. This interpretation is often depicted in science fiction, where characters travel to parallel universes and meet alternate versions of themselves, who made different choices. For example, in the movie Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales meets many versions of Spider-Man from across the multiverse. Finally, Type 4 is the mathematical multiverse. Here, the many worlds are contained within the many solutions to the equations of physics. Every time the constants of physics change, that opens up the possibility for new laws, new particles, new properties. In effect, every possible solution becomes its own universe. So that's the gist of the multiverse. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. How likely is it that we live in a multiverse? Well, as far as we can tell, there's no solid evidence for any of the However, there are a few clues out there that hint at the possibility that we might live in one. First, There's a strange cold spot in the cosmic microwave background radiation. The cosmic microwave background is the leftover radiation from the Big Bang. It should be evenly distributed throughout space, but it isn't. There is a region of space that is noticeably colder than the rest, and scientists are unsure why. One team proposed that it could be evidence of a collision between our bubble universe and another one. If we really did collide with another bubble, that would suggest that there are many more out there and that ours isn't the only one. Second, string theory predicts the existence of extra dimensions. String theory tries to unite gravity with the other forces of nature by introducing tiny vibrating strings as the fundamental building blocks of the universe. But in order for a string theory to work, you need more than the 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time that we experience. You need at least 7 more dimensions. These extra dimensions have to be curled up at extremely small scales. But if they're curled up in slightly different ways, that could create variations in the physical laws of nature that could account for the different universes in a multiverse. Third, there's a fact that quantum mechanics is, well, weird. Things like the double-slit experiment show that particles can be in 2 places at once. But when we try to measure which place, we force the particle to choose one. What happens to the other option? Does it really disappear? If so, then every time we make a measurement, we split the universe. On the other hand, those who oppose the multiverse argue that there is no direct evidence for it, and it is an unnecessary complication to an already complex theory. They say that the multiverse is unfalsifiable, meaning there's no way to prove it wrong. And finally, they say it violates a comms razor. The idea that the simplest explanation is usually the best one. It is simpler to assume that our universe is the only one than to assume that there are infinite others. So, is any of this real? Probably not. The scientific consensus is that the multiverse is unlikely to be true, but not impossible. Some scientists even say that it's necessary to explain certain observations about the universe. But even those scientists will admit that there's no real way to test the multiverse, so we may never know for sure. And finally, let's circle back to where we started. Yes, right now, you are making choices. Your hands are moving, your mouth is forming words, and you're tilting your head to the left so you can hear me better. But what if there are infinite versions of you out there? Versions that didn't tilt their head or did? That said, yes or no, that laughed, or cried, or blinked, or didn't. The idea that there are infinite versions of you out there seems almost ridiculous, but it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. If there are infinite versions of you, then in some version of the multiverse, you gotta watch this video twice. Welcome to the Multiverse! We hope you enjoyed learning about the multiverse, but if you want to learn more about the amazing science that's happening all around, all you have to do is tilt your head to the left and subscribe to our channel. In the meantime, check out this video over here that YouTube thinks you'll like. And remember, maybe we live in one universe. Or maybe we're just one page in an infinite cosmic library. Thanks for watching!